Bye. It just comes at you like that. Hey guys, it's Jennifer Hobbs here again with another episode of Celebrate the Struggle, where my mission and purpose with this is to just really encourage people to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, all the different stigmas that are out there with the touchy subjects we don't want to talk about, but hey, they're actually real life and they shape people into who they are. And from what I've read, like research proves that people that have been through the hardest struggle like actually end up becoming some of the strongest people. So with that being said, I have one of the strongest people I know on this call, and her name is Melia Welch. She is the CEO and founder of Your Covered Painting, which is around the St. Louis area. So remember that, because if you're around St. Louis and you're looking for the best painter, Your Covered Painting with Melia Welch. But not only is she a founder and CEO of her own business, but she is an inventor. Oh yeah, don't let that pretty hair fool you. Apparently she's an inventor too. She is the inventor of Peazy Paint Products. And so all that information will be put into the show notes for you to be able to click on and see some of the products she has to offer, which I'm sure she'll probably talk a little bit about. But what's very cool about Melia, if you've seen her come across your social media at any point, is that she's just not any CEO and founder and inventor and a veteran. She has gone from addiction to CEO and has lived quite a life of struggle, even to I've heard you, Melia, in a moment, I'll have you take it away, but I've heard you refer to yourself as like the comeback kid, like your struggle goes all the way back, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely a story of a lot of deep, dark valleys and real high mountaintops. A lot of sadness and a lot of success and glory and happy moments all together. So,
And I had the pleasure, and all my guests, I won't really have the pleasure of knowing them prior to it, but I had the pleasure of meeting Melia in basic training
yeah, battle.
years ago. And so it's so cool that we have been able, like, and then we went out like on spring break a year later, you know. We have some pictures to prove that hot mess, but super fun. But then over the years, like me, you know, us going on with life and then like losing touch, but then getting back in touch and seeing where our lives have taken us. So tell our listeners a little bit more about you, because you don't just become a CEO of your own company, because I mean, some people get it handed to them, but people like you, they didn't get it handed to them. So tell people about your story a little bit.
Yes. So, long story short, of course, like you said prior, I met you when I was very young, 17 years old. We were in basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Now I'm a Missouri resident myself. Crazy. So, a pretty traumatic childhood growing up. Mother was kind of a she drank a lot, abused alcohol a lot, was really promiscuous throughout my life. My father had went to prison on federal charges of kingpin drug charges, and so grew up in a real chaotic, sad, sad childhood, really. And so ultimately, if you can't beat them, you join them type situation, I guess. And so I got into drugs right after I got out of basic training, right after I met you, and I started to really experiment with drugs and experimented with a lot of different drugs. But then when I started doing heroin, I remember doing heroin for the first time and thinking like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. It made all the emotional trauma, it made all the sadness in my heart, it made all the voices, all the pain, everything, and just made it all quiet and all quiet at once. And so I was very young, I was 17 when I tried heroin for the first time. And so my young mind wasn't able to grasp what I was doing to my life. I was just looking for a fast solution to all the pain. And so I actually found that in heroin. And so that led into a nearly 13-year drug battle. Rehab. I went to rehab 12 times. I went to prison 3 times, and mental institutions and arrest after arrest, and ICU units and hospitals and car wrecks and anything that you can really think of. I went through within those 12 years. I got date raped and just you know, uh, very, 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 very dark times in my life. And I didn't really think that I would ever come out of it. I remember even other addicts would say, if you if you look up the definition of addict in the dictionary, and this is true story, this is really what they said. You look up the definition of addict in the dictionary, there is Melia Welch's picture. And so I was kind of a lost soul. I was a hopeless case, and no one ever thought that I would change. And so what happened was, throughout those years, I ended up having a daughter. And at that time, I'd like gotten sober just to have my daughter and give birth to her. But right after I relapsed and I went back into my addiction. And after having Graceland, that kind of made me look at life a little differently. I didn't get sober right away, but it definitely was in the back of my mind and in my heart. It was always like I wanted to do better. I wanted to get better for my daughter, so I wouldn't I wouldn't let my daughter down the way that my parents had let me down. But at the
Mhm.
time, I just emotionally wasn't able to grasp the concept of how to heal myself. And so I went on throughout my addiction for quite a few more years after I had Graceland. But she was my motivation. All I've ever wanted to be from the moment I had my daughter was I just wanted to be Graceland's mother. I just wanted to be a good mom. All the success and all the glory and all that came after.
Mhm.
Really my motivation the whole entire time was just to be a mother to my daughter eventually. So
Mhm. Which is beautiful, and honestly, like, sometimes people, even that, and knowing they want to be the best mom, even sometimes that isn't strong enough for them to push through that addiction or any struggle like that. So, like, that's very honorable that you were able to push through that, other than like having the motivation of wanting to be a good mother for her. Did you have any other good support system in place, or was it really just you, your mind, and wanting to be a good mom?
there was a lot of things that I experimented with throughout the years of trying to grasp recovery. My mother, by the time that I was really in the depths of my addiction, had kind of she'd went through cancer and all that, so she kind of stopped drinking and all that. But she was still very toxic and very unhealthy. She was definitely I don't. My mom just we're just all doing the best that we can with what we know.
Mhm.
I always say to my daughter, I say to everyone, when you know better, you do better, and sometimes we just don't know how to do better. And so my mom did the best she could with me and tried to help me in any way possible. So in an aspect, she was a support system, but she was kind of uh, made me very codependent in a lot of ways, and she stood by me throughout all those years of rehabs and stuff like that. But ultimately what led me down to the road to recovery was I started taking the NA program seriously. I was so beat up and broken by the time that I got into the rooms of NA. I was desperate for anything, and I had came across a medication called Vivitrol. And Vivitrol is a monthly injection. You can also take it in pill form, and it lasts for 30 days. And so it was an injection that I took in my behind. And I took it for a very long time. For a very long time, I took it each month, and I remember the first month that I lived in St. Louis and I was taking this shot. I would drive to work, and I would watch the sunrise every single morning on my way to work, and I would just cry because for the first time in 12 years, my soul felt like it could breathe. And so Vivitrol calmed the cravings and the mental cravings and all the madness. It calmed it down so I could actually focus and see what life was like sober. I mean, don't get me wrong, Vivitrol is not a magical cure, but if you're really serious about getting sober, it's a perfect solution to an opiate addict. But you have to really want it, because
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, they can give you all the tools in the whole world. There's many people that do not succeed with Vivitrol, and the reason being is because they go back around the same people that they used to get high with. They go back to the same circumstances and places that they used to go to. And so when I got on Vivitrol, I had actually moved away to St. Louis. I'd moved far from home. I moved up here in a junk car, bald tires, and the clothes on my back. I didn't have
Uh-huh.
any. It was very lonely the first year I lived in St. Louis. I didn't have anything. I remember that old junk Malibu, bald tires, and busted up car, and just I was like I had I think $75 to last me the entire week. That first week I was up here, and I didn't know how I was going to make it, or how things were going to turn out. I was just really desperate for a change, and I was willing to do whatever it took. And that's how usually people start to get their life together. They're willing to do whatever it takes to have a better life. And so that led me into the life that I have now. So
Yeah, that's that's stinking powerful. Um, very courageous. Like, and you're absolutely right that like you could have all the tools in the world, and unless like you yourself deep down inside like want to put in the work, then it's not going to happen. You had
it's hard work,
mentioned,
man. You know, it's
yeah.
it's hard work. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, it was I didn't think I was ever going to grasp the concept of a better life. And then one day it was like I looked around and I was like, holy shit, I've been sober,
Hmm.
sober, this amount of time. So
I
it
I
worked.
I
Yeah.
realized what I was just going to say when I was saying that's so powerful. This statement you made that I was thinking of that was so powerful was that as you were driving and watching that sunset, it was the first time in 12 years that you could just breathe. Like, wow, like how like trapping, gosh, to finally get out of this trap and to feel like after 12 years to breathe, like that's, I'm glad that you can breathe now. And I hope for everyone else that they can find it in themselves and know that you you are strong and you have to want it really, really bad, no matter whether it's addiction or recovering from different traumatic events. Like, so you had mentioned, like needing to move and get away from where you were. Um, from what I know about you, you lost a lot of friends, right?
Yeah. So something inside me, you can call it God, you can call it the universe, whatever it means to you. Ultimately, like something inside me kept telling me to leave my hometown, leave, 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 And so I thought, like, I can't shut this voice up. And so even though I was terrified, very codependent on my family, never been away from my family, I was leaving my daughter, so ultimately I was leaving all that I knew. I was leaving my daughter in another state with my mother to take care of her, and moving up to St. Louis all by myself without anything. And so very shortly after I moved to St. Louis, what happened was, I remember I was up here probably not even 6 months, and the first of my friends, Bridget, she had died of a heroin overdose. And then from then on out, about every 3 to 9 months, someone new would die. And no, I think that I was actually talking to my girlfriend the other day about it. There's like 15 friends of mine that have all passed away due to the opiate epidemic, and it never gets easier. It never, it just never gets easier. And seeing their faces, seeing their families' faces. I used to carry a lot of survivor's guilt around with me. Y- you know, why them? Why
Mhm.
not me? I see their children, I see their families. I'll go home and I carry it all around with me, and I think about them and every success that I have, every failure that I have, the way that I'm able to hug my daughter every single day, the way I'm able to be with my daughter every single day. And a lot of them, will never get to experience that ever again. And
Mhm.
it's very sad to me. Most of them are gone now, but the ones that I ran around with, out of probably like 15 or 20 people, two of them got sober. A couple of them are still in their addiction, in prison, and a couple of them are still in their addiction running around. And so, unfortunately, I just kind of hold my breath waiting for the phone call of hearing about, they've passed away too, because there's no out in that life. It's either jails, institutions, or death. And I remember they used to say that around the rooms of NA early in recovery. And I was like, whatever, but it really is true. So there's only, three choices in that lifestyle. And one of those three choices are going to end up happening if you don't take your recovery
Mhm.
serious. It's over. So it was definitely a struggle for a long time, because what I found out when I got sober was that it wasn't like, uh, not doing drugs was the easy part. Not doing drugs was the easy part, because what I found out was there was a whole lot of reasons why I was using all those years. It wasn't,
Right, the triggers.
yeah, and so there was a lot of emotional baggage and damage that I took along with me. And so the longer I got sober, the more I worked on that. And when I really started changing was when I started going to therapy, and I really started taking therapy serious, because I wanted to know, why am I like this, and how do I change these behaviors, because I don't want to be fucked up like this anymore. Like
Mhm.
I want to live free. I want to live a good life. I want to live a fulfilled life. And I still felt like, years into living in St. Louis, like I still felt like I was being very weighed down by the emotional baggage that I was still carrying. So it's
Mhm.
a lot of work that I had to do, definitely self reflection. So
Yeah, it's like a full-time job to get through all that, I'm sure.
yeah, it was. I mean, it was. I remember being in a relationship, and um she's saying all you do is, you know, all you do is work and focus on your recovery. And like, you wanted me sober. Like, what more do you want? Like
Right.
I'm trying, like I'm trying, like, and so it did. It just, and I was in relationships here and there throughout the past few years, but ultimately, I took like a year and a half. So, excuse me, I took a year and a half to myself. And as you know, and many that follow me, obviously, like you're a personal friend of mine, and Jen, you're so awesome, and just thank you for the years of support. Like, not everyone knows what an amazing, badass human being you are. You were just a great
Thank
friend to me
you.
early on, and Jen wrote me letters in prison, and was always there, in the background supporting and everything. And it's I look around my life still to this day, and I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life. Like, I can't
Right.
believe, like, I get to go to all these cool places and do all these cool things. And I used to be, I joke, I'm like, I used to be a heroin junkie, but now I'm just an adrenaline junkie. I'm
Uh-huh.
falling off big ass waterfalls and stuff. So
Yes. So let's tell our listeners a little bit about that, because if you do uh follow Malia on TikTok or Facebook, you'll see that she is like living her best life. Now, of course, that comes with life struggles. Like she's still is faced with challenges on a daily basis. But
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
the listeners, like, how in the world did you go from rock bottom, like fighting the opiate epidemic, to like bald tires, and now you own your own like insanely, I don't even think popular is the word, but insanely elite painting business. How in the world, what in the world happened?
Yeah. So when I was in prison, I actually uh, weaseled my way into a construction trades program that I wasn't even supposed to be in. But I I dropped notes to the principal every single day for a solid month, and he is like, I've never had someone be so persistent with me in getting this program. He's like, it's a year and a half wait list. And I said, yeah, I said, but I really want to be in this program. And he said, if I put you in this program, will you just stop writing me every single day? And
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, if you do not put me in this program, I'm going to continue to write you until you put me in the program. So, and he just, just loved me. And I said, I'm going to get out. I'm going to complete this program. I'm going to get out. I'm going to get in the union. I'm going to do that for a few years. I'm going to get out of the union and I'm going to build my own company. And he laughed at me and he was like, what's crazy, Welch, is he said, uh, I see a lot of bullshitters here in prison. He said, but I believe you when you say that you're going to do these things. He said, because your persistence in here with just dropping me notes every single day trying to get this class, he's like, I really believe you're going to. In fact, that's exactly what I did. So moved to St. Louis, was on my road to recovery, got into the union. I was in the union carpenters for a
Mm-hmm.
few years. I was in the union painters for a few years. And then I decided I would get out. I'd open my own company. Everybody was like, oh, you're crazy. You'll never make it. Da, da, da. And I said, you know what? Fuck you guys.
Mm-hmm.
People call me crazy my whole life. And that's okay. Now I'm being called crazy for a good thing. So I got out, and within the first year of my painting business, I started making six figures a year. People couldn't believe it. We do very high clientele, politicians, executives. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't know, but St. Louis is actually a hub for a lot of the corporate headquarters of all the big companies. I've worked for, the executives of Enterprise and MasterCard and politicians and some of the baseball players and lots of really famous, awesome people. And man, I'm just so blessed. So I got into a very select um, clientele base in St. Louis, and
Mm-hmm.
so I always joke that I'm in the business of painting mansions, and so my company, we paint some beautiful homes. We just got done a few months ago painting a 9,000 square foot mansion,
Woo.
and I went from growing up extremely poor, being in my addiction, extremely poor, and not having anything at all, and going from that to just major success. So it's like all within a year, everything changed. Like I got sober within a year. I got my daughter back, and I actually went to court, fought my own child custody case against my mother. Unfortunately, we definitely had some differing opinions about that, and so represented myself, got my daughter back, uh, built my painting company, and so everything happened really, really fast. And I'm not going to sit here and tell everyone that it was easy, that it was an easy transition. It was a lot of change, and it was very fast, and it was very hard to deal with all that change. And to be honest with you, I didn't know how to deal with it all. It took definitely a toll on me, as a person. At the time I was in a relationship, it took a huge toll on the relationship, and unfortunately it came to an end. But I'm grateful for that relationship in the beginning, because there was a lot of good life lessons that was taught to me in that relationship, and a lot of very powerful things that happened that changed the course of my life
Mm-hmm.
for the better. And so it just my company just kept getting bigger and bigger, and the success got bigger and bigger. And I'm I'm a workaholic, so I kind of turned my addiction into work, and so I became workaholic, and I worked all the time, and it was really taking hold of me. I'm like, what am I working for if I'm not able to enjoy my money? I was miserable, kind of. I had all this money and all this success, and can we wait 1 second? I gotta plug my
Yeah.
phone in.
Yeah.
Let me plug.
I feel like if I'm good at technology, that would be a great spot to throw in a commercial of your invention. But
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
you
So,
were, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So then like I said, like that relationship had came to an end, and I called my mom one day and I said, you know what, I found out that she had late stages emphysema. The doctor, didn't give us a very good prognosis, and I said, you know what, I said we should just go to Hawaii. I said, you've never been to Hawaii, I've never been to Hawaii. Let's just take off and go to Maui. And she's like, what are you talking about? You've never been. And so we did. We went to Maui. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. My mother took a turn for the worst. Not too much, not too much after that. So it was if God, universe, whatever you want to call it, had told me, had kind of led me into that path. And then once I went there and I saw the beauty of travel and the beauty of the world, I got addicted to it. And so I started traveling. And so now my daughter and I would travel about every 30 to 60 days. As Jen like to
Mm-hmm.
pick off these amazing places, and we get to do, we just got back from Oahu and Hawaii. We went shark diving, we went waterfall rappelling, uh we did some biking down. It's called I don't want to the Hawaiian names are so hard to pronounce, and I don't want to disrespect the Hawaiian culture. So it was like Waimea Canyon. And so it's the Hawaiian Islands Grand Canyon. And it's just the most beautiful. It's just so beautiful. The Hawaiian Islands are my favorite place to travel. I've been there 3 times within the past 3 years. It was my second time this year to the Hawaiian Islands. And every time I go there, it's harder and harder to come back. And so my
Mm-hmm.
daughter and I do all these crazy things. We snorkel and we shark dive, we waterfall rappel. I mean, anything that you can think of that is wild and crazy, we do, and we do together. And I'm just so grateful each and every day for my life and for those trips, because it's a life that if I would have prayed, it's a life I never thought would ever be mine.
And it is,
It's a life
girl.
I never thought would be mine.
And it totally,
Sometimes like I'm still
it's
pinching
totally,
myself.
it's
So
totally your life. And it's so good that you have found the balance between being addicted to work, but then realizing like you need to live outside of loving your job. And life is short.
I
So
say that all the time, nearly every day.
yeah, it really is. That's so good that you get to have so many amazing experiences with your daughter. How I really hope that I know this is going to be a tough question, but I think it'll really help other people in the same situation. How are the conversation? Have you had conversation? I think we've talked about this. You have had to like kind of talk to your daughter about a little bit about your past and where you are now. Like I know you've talked to her about it in the sense of you've mentioned to me like letting her know like that you choose your choices. But for anybody listening that has children in their life, or maybe even a sibling or a spouse that doesn't know, can't relate to addiction or returning from trauma, how has the conversations with your like 12-year-old daughter been, and when did those kind of start? I'm sure like you don't really have like super, actually I just don't know. Do you have deep conversations with her, or do you just kind of, how's that go?
So my daughter is an Aries. I don't know what you know about horoscopes, or my daughter's an Aries, so she is just naturally a very deep person. I'm a very deep person, and my brother and my daughter always tease me that I sound like a walking Facebook quote at all times. So I'm always like quoting things to her. Um, she gets so tired of my bullshit. She gets so tired of my Facebook quote. Um, but I take her to a lot of speaking engagements. I'll take her to different things. Like a couple years ago, we went to a grand opening of a halfway house of a good friend of mine. The Illinois governor's wife, MK Pritzker, was at that event. She got to meet MK. They're very much for prison reform and recovery, and just an outstanding, great lady. The Lieutenant Governor Juliana, just outstanding women, really strong and wanting to learn how to help and rehabilitate these individuals instead of locking them up and throwing away the key. And we were blessed to meet those people. And Graceland goes with me to all those places and gets to meet all those people. So she's very aware. She's heard me speak, very aware of my past. And I keep that very honest with her for a long time. I think she was like around 9 or 10 or so before I started telling her about my story and about the things that I went through, because one side of me wanted to shelter her from it, but the other side of me wanted her to know, like, no one no one tries drugs, or no one starts partying thinking like, oh, I'm going to be a heroin addict, I'm going to be shooting up in my arm and go to
Mm-hmm.
prison and kill myself for drugs and steal from my family and lose my children. No one starts doing things thinking that. And so I remember that I the way I actually introduced her to what I did, because we were talking and I was talking about traveling for speaking and stuff like that. And I said, I set her down and I had her watch my speaker reel
Mm-hmm.
and about my life, and she started crying, and I started crying, and I said, Graceland, the love I had for you kept my heart beating. It kept me trying. It kept me believing that one day I would get it right, whether it was 12 times in rehab or 25. And mommy loves you so much, and I'm sharing this with you because I never want you to make those same mistakes. I never want you to go down that awful road, because it's just the things that I saw in and out of prison, not only in prison but also out. I can't even imagine Graceland going through those things. And so I'm always very honest with her and real, even about the most horrendous things that happen to me in my addiction. I told her about, and now she's at the age, she's about to become a teenager. And recently I caught her vaping, as I told you earlier, Jen, and it was hard for me. I'm terrified. Her father is a addict as well, and I believe he's in recovery, not really for sure. He's not a big part of Graceland's life, and so she gets it from both sides. So when I found that out, I just completely flipped out, because she doesn't understand that, like, when you have parents on both sides are that have a past of addiction, or whether it's like alcohol or whether it's drugs or whatever, like, you have a 90% chance of becoming an addict yourself, trying these like drugs and substances and stuff, as where if it's only like one parent, it's like, I think it's like a 50%, 40% chance. It's just insanely high
Wow.
for both sides. So I'm just terrified. And she always says, you're so strict, mom, and you're stricter than all the other parents. But it's fear. It's fear that
Mm-hmm.
drives me. I just want to protect her. And I called my mom, crying, and I said, Mom, I'm so sorry about putting you through all that. Like, I can't even imagine what you must have felt like. And I just cannot even wrap my head around my daughter doing things like that, and me having to worry about things like that. It made my past and the pain that I caused through the years, it made it very real at that moment. And I always say this a lot, that life has a way of coming full circle. And I really believe what you put out, you get back in some aspect. And I do believe that the lessons that you are supposed to learn, if you do not learn them the first time, life tries to teach you them, that life will keep trying to teach you the same lesson until you actually grasp that concept, and you learn the lesson that's needed to be learned in that aspect. So uh I try to be a good woman. I try to be the woman that I would want my daughter to be. I definitely fell every single day in some aspect, but tomorrow's a new day, and I pick myself back up, and I say, Graceland, I'm human. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. You're human. You make mistakes. You're not perfect. And we're all just trying to do the best we can. And I hope that, that you look back and you can say, my mom was a great mom. She loved me, and she did the very best she could. And, every day she tried to be a better woman than she was the day before. So it's terrifying. It's, she's
Mm-hmm.
it's that blink, she's a teenager. So
Mm-hmm.
really crazy. So,
Oh man, teenagers it makes my heart rate start to go up.
oh, I mean, seriously, it's like, I got her back when she was like 8.5, and I hadn't had her since she was like a toddler. And when I got her back, I remember it was very overwhelming. It was very scary. I was early in recovery. I just had a little bit over a year back, year sober, when I got my daughter back. And so I was still like learning how to be a mom. I was
Yeah.
still learning how to live like an adult, because all those years, like, I had, essentially, like, I started using when I was 17. So really, honestly, like, I was kind of still in that concept of being 17. I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities. I didn't really know what it was to be responsible, or like be accountable for the
Yeah.
things that I done. My grandmother had died. Graceland was 9 months old, but she coddled me. My mother and grandmother had coddled me to such a unbelievable. It was just horrible, because I didn't really know how to ever stand on my own 2 feet. And so even as an adult, even at 24, having a child of my own, I didn't know how to stand on my own 2 feet. I was in throes of addiction, in and out. And it was just, man, I remember getting sober and like moving to St. Louis by myself. It was just so insane. It was so surreal.
But
Just like looking around, like pretending to be this adult and having my shit together. Like, I remember paying all my bills the first like 6 months on time and stuff. Like, look at me, this is all ordinary and like normal to all these people, but it's
right. Right.
non-normal. I'm like, oh shit, like I have insurance, like I pay my insurance for my car every month.
I love that you put all that out there, because that is precisely what, like, we all, not all of us, but like some of us, like, truly have gone through. And like, that's a celebration in itself. Like, holy moly, I I had a fresh pair of clothes on every day this month. Like, just different
Yeah,
things like
I
that.
mean,
Like, I am making it in the world.
yeah, it
So
was crazy.
um I think I know the answer to this question, but you became, the inventor of your Peazy Paint Products, and which is so cool. Like, am I correct in saying that your product, like the number one product, I guess, I don't know if that's the term, that other people are looking at right now, and partnering with you thought of that based on like your need as a painter, right? Like, you needed those buckets of paint up on that darn ladder without having to go down. And like, is that how you got the idea? Tell everyone what the name of it is, and basically the concept, and we'll make sure to put in the notes the link and like the video, so they can see just how amazing your crazy brain works.
Yeah, so insane. So my daughter and I, huge Shark Tank fans, huge Shark Tank fans. And so I was going through a pretty hard time in my life, actually, at that moment. Graceland and I would lay on the couch every night. We watched Shark Tank. And so we kind of started talking about different tools, what would help mommy, what would help mommy the best. And we kind of, threw some different ideas up. And so I started kind of drawing out some concepts of, things that I needed. I was looking for this tool actually for a solid year before I invented it. I was just looking for a painting bucket to be on my ladder that held two colors at one time, because all there is like these hooks, these stupid hooks that hook on each side of the ladder, and your paint cans are swinging. And I'm very clumsy, just naturally very clumsy. I'd hit these paint cans, they'd splatter this and that everywhere. It was just such a mess. And so I went and I had I drew this out, right, and so I let it actually sit on my refrigerator for a few months, and I kept on going back and forth with it. And I'm like, man, like I have to do it. I have to do it. Something kept pulling me towards this project. So I went, I had it prototyped and all that, got the patents on it, stuff. I got one made, started working with it myself, and I was like, oh my God, I'm on to something. And so it holds two colors at one time, which no other paint bucket on the market holds two colors at one time, which is kind of like mind blown there. And I remember when I pitched it to the patent attorney, and he said, when you have to do a patent search before you invent something to make sure no one else had actually invented it, that you're not stealing someone else's patent. And so he was like, Melia, there's just no way that no one else has ever made this bucket. If they haven't, like, you're really on to something, And so they hadn't, and he was blown away. I was blown away. And so, fast forward, got a prototype made, started using on my own project, let some other painters use it. They loved it. I started pitching it to all these big box retailers, this, that. They loved it. They wanted to put it on the website, this, that. So started sending it to trade shows. And right now I'm actually in the middle of financial negotiations with a couple big companies and deciding whether to go ahead and sell that invention or partnering up with it. Nothing happens in corporate America fast. So I'm the kind of person that I want things done right now. But this has been a product that I've been working on for 2 solid years. And I have actually 2 other products that I'm inventing currently, and I'm about to put out as well. And so hopefully one day Peazy Paint Products will be, a multi-million-dollar company with a lot of products of our own and tools of our own. And so everyone thought I was crazy with putting, all the money, the thousands and thousands of dollars that it takes to put out an invention. They thought I was crazy. And, I just laughed at myself. And like, people's been calling me crazy all my life. Like, at least you're not calling me crazy now, because, I'm waking up with Narcan shots in the back of an ambulance, I'm like, you're calling me crazy for good reason now,
Yeah.
So, you're not calling me crazy because you see me like fighting the cops in handcuffs and then macing me or anything. You're calling me crazy for a good reason. So it makes me feel good for, call me crazy all you want. I'm used to it. So yeah, and looks like it's going to be a huge deal for me. It's a huge success for me. It still doesn't seem real. Like, it's still just, my life just does not seem real to me. It's I work night and day on Peazy Paint Bucket. Yeah, I work night and day, and I was single at the time for nearly 2 years. And honestly, I had to be single at the time because there's no way in hell I could have kept a relationship and worked on that invention at the same time, because every single moment of my time, I mean, I was getting it, worked on through China and all that. And so China is actually 12 hours in front of us. So by the time I work during the day painting, I would come home, I'd be exhausted, I'd be laying in bed, and I would be working out and negotiating with China, different aspects of that paint bucket. And it was I mean, just, blood, sweat, and tears. Definitely. It takes a lot to invent something. And I don't think that people really understand that until they start getting in that realm themselves, because it is not for chumps. Let me tell you, it is not.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
You
So
know what's interesting when you were talking about like people calling you crazy, which people are really good at doing that and like judging others. But what's crazy is that like you could have ended up like, if we're being real, and you have shared like, and again, I'll put in the show notes your links and then like some of your speaking engagements, because you have started to put your story out there and are continuing to look at that into the future, to sharing your story to help other people. But you have put out there like your mugshot, um you know, like just a big like heroin is so not a hero picture. And so like it's interesting to see that like you could have been one of those people that ended up on one of those billboards where it's like before heroin, after heroin. Instead now you are legit on a billboard, not with your heroin
Nope.
mugshot, but like legit
on.
on a billboard around St. Louis with, we got your covered painting. So if you're in the St. Louis area and this pretty voice and this pretty face sounds familiar, it's probably because you've seen her rump up there on the billboard turned around as she's painting. So I got one more
funny story about that
Oh
billboard.
yeah, let's hear it.
So Jen, like it has me, right? Like has me on the billboard painting. And so I see my billboard, I'm all excited, right? You saw it, like I posted it on Facebook and everything. And like, and then you see me like running up on my billboard, not supposed to, right? Like super illegal to do this. But I climb this whole damn billboard, right? I climb this whole billboard and I get on top of the billboard and take a picture with my own billboard. Like,
That's awesome.
Just Melia, I'm like all looking around, like I haven't broken the law in years, and this is what I'm like. It's a funny, like I'm like, never did I think I'd be breaking the law to not only like take a picture of me with my own billboard, but I sure the hell didn't think I'd be on a billboard with like my own company. I thought I'd be on billboard, just like you said, right? Like, don't do drugs, kids. Like,
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like that should definitely be a citation that's like overlooked. Like if you're taking your selfie with your billboard, then like that should be allowed for sure.
Yeah. Super cool. Yeah. So.
I have a couple more questions for you, because since we know you are an adrenaline junkie and very good at being able to, well, getting better at like identifying that you need to live your life and not just be addicted to work, although you can't be on vacation every day. So on the days that you're not on vacation, what kinds of, because I think it's very, very important for us to make sure we have that self-care, whether in all different ways, spiritually, mentally, physically. And so what kinds of things do you try to commit to like daily that like benefit you in your self-care? I have one in mind just because I know you. What kinds of things do you try and make sure you do daily for self-care, because you know it is self-care for you and it brings benefits? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Ooh.
Okay. So a lot of different things. That's actually a great question. And I actually get that a lot. I get that a lot in the speaking engagements and stuff that I go to, or like parents or people in recovery or people that are trying to look for recovery. They ask me that a lot, like, give me the magical answer, right? So there is no magical answer. But what I can tell you is that I try to stay grounded. I try to stay very focused on if I'm not happy, if I'm angry or sad or any of the above, it's like I do a self-awareness check every single day. Like I check in with myself, like, how is Melia today? Like, is Melia having a good day? And if I'm not, then why? Am I sad? Why am I sad? Am I thinking about using, am I thinking about having anger outbursts? And if so, why? So I'm definitely always asking myself and taking a look like outside in. And uh you know I wouldn't say necessarily meditate, but what I do a lot is I go out in nature and I spend a lot of time out in nature. There's, as you know, and a lot of people that follow me as well, they know that I read all the time. I listen to a lot of Audible books, and there's a book. It's called something like the 3 Day Outdoor Experiment, or something like that. But it's about how if you are out in nature for at least like 2 or 3 days, your body actually resets, like your mind, heart, body, soul completely like resets, and it really is true. And so that's why I also travel a lot. And you don't have to necessarily travel a lot, right? You can go hiking about the woods near you and things like that. And so uh I'm giving you like a huge long version of what you asked me, right?
No,
But
it's
there's
yeah.
so many things that I check in with myself daily, that help me daily. But the biggest one is, like I said, just staying grounded and doing self check-ins with myself. I try to go to NA meetings still to this day. I try to help people whenever I can, whether it's just seeing someone sad and saying, "Hey, you know what? Just wanted to tell you you look really nice today," or uh, you know my daughter, she's just the best at this. She's just the best at this. She's We give random compliments to people. So anywhere we're at, Graceland will randomly go, she'll pass by someone, I just want to tell you you're really pretty, you know. And
Aw.
and showing kindness and spreading kindness and spreading love, it really does something for us. And people that know me personally close know that I donate to charities every single month. Sometimes it's not just like charities, sometimes it's individuals. And I pick families each year for Christmas to sponsor through my company. And I do a lot of giving back. And what I found is giving back and helping others soothes my soul, and helps me grow as an individual more than anything else. And it's also taught my daughter a lot of great valuable lessons in life. I try, like I said, I still try to go to NA meetings. I help and give whenever I can. I try to lay in bed at night and think, like, have I done everything I could to be a better person, a better woman, a better mother? Like, did I say things that I shouldn't have said today? And if I did, like, do I need to apologize? Do I need to make that right? So I'm very like self-aware, and that took me a long time to grasp that. And so that keeps me, they say a grateful addict will will not relapse, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. My life now, it's normal to me. uh it's normal to me to take trips all the time. It's normal for me to not worry about what's in the bank, to go grocery shopping. It's, all these things I don't even think twice about. And sometimes, like, I remember, back in my childhood, right? Like my mom, something that sticks out with me, and I'll never forget it. It was a time that I was very young. I was probably around my daughter's age, maybe a little younger. And my mom said I wanted to go skating at the skating rink, and she said, "Well, Malia, I only have enough money to either let you go skating or to buy a pizza for us." And I knew my mom was hungry, but I knew she would just eat something random out of the cabinet, and just, like, just settle her stomach with something like that. But really, like, she wanted pizza, right? Because she was hungry, but she was willing to let me go skating instead. And so I chose that pizza that night. And I think about those humble beginnings. I think about seeing my mom cry on her bed, not being able to pay our bills because she didn't know how she was going to take care of us raising two kids on our own. And I try to, when I start getting a little arrogant or a little cocky, I try to remind myself of all those humble beginnings, and it grounds
Mhm.
me, levels me. My daughter is very this life is all she's ever known.
Mm-hmm.
She never knows about the struggles that her mother had to give her all the life that we have now.
Yeah.
So I feel like being humble and reminding yourself how to be grateful every day is the best gift that you can give yourself. So
Yeah.
long story to answer what your question.
I think it was perfect. I mean, honestly, like just from the very beginning, talking about being self-aware and staying grounded, like inevitably, like I feel like that is the best answer you could give, because whether it's I was thinking audiobooks. I knew that you listen to audiobooks a lot. And whether it's exercising, yoga, or going in nature, anything like that, like that you're not going to get the benefits from those things unless you are in touch with yourself and self-aware and like mindful. So I feel like that was the perfect answer, and that's where we all should start with. And I did learn recently that like going and just walking in nature or sitting in nature is a form of meditation. I always just thought it was more like but now I'm
Yeah.
starting to find out that I'm not as smart as my 2 master's degrees tell me. So I feel like that was a perfect answer. And I'm so grateful that you came on here. Like I've been so excited to have you on here, not just because I love you to death, but because you have a story that I have admired for so long, like from addiction, even before CEO and inventor and vacationer,
Yeah.
all that stuff. And you've told me this before, like Jennifer, like all that, like it's not even about that. Like it's like you taste the sweetness of life without those 6 digits potential $1 million business. Like you now can taste life so much sweeter with that clear, in touch self-awareness, and that's phenomenal. And
Yeah. Everyone always tells me uh sometimes like when I go home, I'll see people from home. When I rarely go back to my hometown, but I will occasionally, and they're like, "Oh, like I can't believe you're just like still you. Like you're not like we see all this stuff about you and we think like, oh, you're this big shot, you're this, you're that, but like then you come and you're just like Malia, like you wouldn't
mhm,
even know that you have all the success or all the great things going on in your life that you do because you're just still Malia. You haven't changed, you're sober and all that now, but like you're just Malia. And I love that people say that to me because I feel like that's the best compliment in the whole world because
mhm,
I tell them, money doesn't buy happiness. It doesn't like success doesn't buy happiness. I think in my mind, I thought for a long time, like if I have this, I have this car, I have this house, I have this amount of money in my bank account. If I'm able to do this, if I'm able to go here, then I'll be fulfilled and everything will be great. But the more success and the more money and the more travels and the more places that I got to and achieve, uh, the more I realize that that's not what life is about, and none of that really matters. No one's going to their grave and able to take that boat with them or that
mhm,
house. And I think, like I always tell Graceland, the most important thing that you can do in life is just be a good human. Just be a good
mhm,
human with a good heart because that's what people are going to remember you for. They're not going to remember that big yacht boat, when they think of you, they're not going to think that and think that, oh, what a great person because you had a 60-foot yacht or whatever. Your heart and who you are inside is ultimately going going to make you memorable for all the right reasons. And so I try to tell her that every single day because she's starting to get at this age, she's a teenager. She's really starting to try to find her own way and what her own life looks like in this life as well. And so, be humble, be kind, just be a good person. We never know what anyone else is going through. There
mhm,
was many times in my life that I just needed a kind word. I just needed someone to believe in me, to tell me that I could do it, that I could succeed, even when the odds were against me. And I never underestimate anyone in this life because no one ever thought that I would change. No one ever thought that I would change, and I did. And I just the other day, actually, a good friend of mine, he's a DEA agent from where I'm from. And he said, Malia, I just want you to know that I think of you often. You're on my heart often. And I see all this drug addiction and all these bad things around here, and just these people, over and over and over again. And it makes you very cold, and it makes you just have just this bitterness in your heart. And he's like, and then I think about you, Malia. I think about how no one ever thought that you'd change, and they had all given up all hope on you. And he's like, you're the reason that I continue to do the job that I do, because of people like
Oh,
so
oh,
it made my day. Like, it made my day. The same guys that arrested me back in the
no
day,
doubt.
the same judges that sentenced me, will message me, still this day, and just be like, you're the reason that I believe in the good in people. So
Holy cow. Well, that
yeah.
like is that you pretty much dropped the mic on the best way to end this show. That's amazing. Like that you're an inspiration to the people that put you in cuffs when you when you
Yeah.
could have been a different billboard. Like you're an
Yeah.
inspiration to them. And
Yeah.
I know very well that the people listening right now, that there are people out there that you're an inspiration to them right now, and that I think they would agree with me in saying that you are one badass chick, and Gracelyn is so lucky to have you. I'm so glad that she was a part of saving your life.
Oh man, she's the very best parts of me, that's for sure.
Mhm. Well, folks, we're going to bring it to an end. I know you're so mad though, because we could probably stay on here forever, but maybe we'll have a visit from you in the future, like when your inventions hit the market. You could revisit us. So,
Yeah.
and I will make sure to put in the notes how you can stalk Melia. Social media, folks, don't be trying to roll up in her neighborhood. That's super weird. Although if you do climb up the billboard and take your selfie with her picture, like I feel like I will give you like something like a free copy of my book or something, because that is super ballsy and would be super cool. But this is Melia Welch. Melia, thank you for being in here. Thank you for being vulnerable and honest, and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, so that we can just best enlighten ourselves and give that crap its space and realize that it doesn't define our future.
Yeah, well, Jen, thank you so much. Like, I couldn't be happier for you, for your success, for your book. I like tell everybody about you. We had a bond early on from basic training, and I've
Mhm.
just always loved you and had like a huge spot in my heart for you, because you're one of those people that saw me when like I was nothing, and there's two types of people you never forget in your life when you're in that realm of uh, or, just awfulness. You never
Mhm.
forget the people that kicked you when you were down, and you never forget the people that saw you and reached out their hand to help, and showed you kindness for no reason. And you just never forget about those people. And you was just one of those people that you were always good to me. You always loved me. We're good friends from the moment we met,
Mhm.
and so thankful for your friendship throughout these years. And I couldn't be more proud of you, Jen, and just so proud to call you my friend. I love you so much. And I just thank you so much for letting me be on your podcast.
Thank you, dear. I love you too. And my go-go gadget hand is here for you anytime you need it. Just as I know yours is there for me.
You
So
bet.
thank
You
you
bet.
again for joining us. And we look forward to the next time you're going to be on here.
All right.
We'll see what else you invented. All
I
right.
have a lot. I have a lot of good stuff up my sleeve. No worries there.
I don't doubt it. All right, folks. We'll see you next time on Celebrate the Struggle. Bye.
Bye-bye.